I take from my bed to the floor. 5, 6, 7, 8. Will today be rough or will today be great? 9, 10, 11, 12. Lately I've been going through hell. 13, 14, 15, 16. Today's the day. Are you coming? Are you sick of being normal? I'm sick of being average. I'm sick of being mortal. I'm about to be a savage. I see a lot of things that I want, I will have them. I got a new mindset that I just established. I'll march through the cold with the nails on the pavement. I'll shovel that coal just to get out the basement. My story will be told, helping others make changes. I'll be so bold, they will watch in amazement.
Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start or will I keep waiting? Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time, do you take it? Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start or will I keep waiting? Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time, do you take it?
Foot up on the pedal, pushing hard to the metal. Make a deal with the devil. Channel rage through my vessel into something that is special. Energy of a rebel, going up a level. I just wanna be greatness. I could feel changes, turn a new page and tie up my laces. I will be the bravest, break out of my cages. I will not be nameless, I will not be aimless.
Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start or will I keep waiting? Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time, do you take it? Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start or will I keep waiting? Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time, do you take it?
What is going on, everybody? What is going on? Welcome back to the Locked In Podcast, episode 227. Going late tonight due to the initial time slot for this episode was 9 p.m. I feel like with After Hours, we've been postponing it so much that next week is like the final slot for it. If not, we'll put it into the future. So we are moving After Hours to next week. We're going to talk about attachment styles, love languages, modern dating, kind of like the mess that is, but also like some positives for it. And it should just be a mixed panel, men and women. So just getting everybody together for those episodes is a little challenging, but we navigate it. We've worked through them before. This is like part 8. So, out of 227 episodes and whatnot. So bear with us on this one. I know, we've postponed it like 3 times already. This will be the 4th if we're doing it next week. I don't anticipate it. Already have a guest list lined up for it. We'll see if everybody sticks to it. If we get the majority of the people, we'll just probably run it through. But we do try to keep those panels balanced in terms of men to women ratio. So when it's a little bit too unbalanced or too skewed a certain way, I try not to have those episodes, just to have a fair conversation across the board. With that being said, what we're talking about tonight is headship versus biblical leadership. Now, both are important. Headship is a little broader. And then one of the branches of headship is leadership. So I'm going to get into it. And it was something I came across weeks ago. I was actually talking to a couple people about this. And I was supposed to have some guests on tonight. The 3 guests that I have in the promotions cannot make it. But I do have 2 that could be tentative coming on here tonight. But I'm going to be honest with you. I do believe it's probably just going to be me solo hosting this one tonight. And I'm going to keep it pretty quick, probably to about 45 minutes, because I know it is late. I know a lot of people might be watching the Thursday night football game, whatever. Everybody has lives. So it is late and it's not after hours, but still an important topic nonetheless. I didn't want to postpone this week. In the past, we've gotten in the habit of doing that, but we use the time creatively. I wasn't trying to do that this week. So with that being said, we're still going to keep this episode here tonight. Headship versus leadership. Like I said, probably just me going solo here tonight. But if I do have 2 guests potentially coming on, or just even one of them, we'll see. Maybe it'll go a little longer than 45 minutes. With that being said, guys, I don't want to slow anything down. Let's hop into it. All right. So again, I got to go through the script here. If you're watching on YouTube and you're not already subscribed, what are you doing? Click that subscribe button and hit that little notification bell in the corner to turn those notifications on, because we release podcast episodes every single week, typically on Thursday. So you don't want to miss it, especially if you like content related to personal growth or sports. So if you like those 2 types of content, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're watching on Facebook, I assume you're already part of the community to be able to watch this stream. So thank you for that. Still hit that like button, really helps us out with the algorithm. Facebook or YouTube, still comment down below, guys. We don't always get enough comments in these streams, and I do enjoy the comments. So even if you just want to hit it to write in to say what's up, I appreciate it. You don't even have to add anything to the conversation here tonight. If you'd like to, great. YouTube, I can put your comments up when you're on the screen. Facebook, due to meta privacy concerns that happened like over 6 months ago, I can no longer put your Facebook comments on the screen, at least as of now, unless things change. But I can still read your comments out loud, and I have Facebook being monitored here so I can see the comments as they come in. So, guys, comment, especially on these episodes, because I'm not hosting with anybody. But appreciate you guys anyway, even if you're just watching. I appreciate that. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're watching on Spotify, if you're listening on Spotify too, make sure you hit those download buttons, because they really, really help us out. Same thing with Anchor. And with that being said, guys, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the pod. I used to have like catchy slogans in these spots, like 2022, be true and be you. It's 2023, something, live free and something. I don't know. I used to have catchy slogans. 2025, I don't really have one. Yeah, just enjoy the episode, guys. We will get into it. Side note, we actually just yesterday, I didn't even realize. So you guys know George Mecaj. George and I had started this podcast back in 2020, It's funny. I have the first episode that we ever did. I actually sent it to him earlier this morning. I have it in pre-recorded form because we never actually went live with that episode. But yesterday was the 5-year mark since we had started this podcast. Now, me and George, in terms of hosting, we parted ways in April of 2024. However, George comes on as guests from time to time. And honestly, although George and I parted ways, I met a lot of really, really cool people along the way through George. So very, very appreciative. One of the biggest ones in terms of like notoriety was Hollis Thomas, who came on this podcast a few years ago from the Philadelphia Eagles. He played with the Eagles about a couple decades ago. But yeah, I met a lot of cool people along the way. And although George and I parted ways in terms of hosting, still very grateful for the ride. So just want to make that comment. 5 years, half a decade, absolute insanity. It does not feel like it. Although when you see the number, episode 227, it has been a long way. It has been a long way. And as you can see, 5 times 52, 52 weeks. Obviously, we're not at 200, and it would be about 260 where we would be at if we had an episode every single week. So we haven't missed too many. We're about 30 episodes off, but we've had a lot of hiatuses, like 1-month hiatuses and stuff like that, for traveling and different things. It's crazy, though. It's been a ride for sure. And although we don't generate a lot of money off this, it has been an experience, and it has been so cool to build a network of people through this podcast, and not just touch people in the tri-state area where I live, but also to have met people on the West Coast, people that are, Midwest. I've been able to meet people through this podcast network that I would have never met, to be honest, had I not started this. So, that was a cool moment to understand that yesterday. And George actually reached out to me. I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of would have slipped my mind, but it was crazy to see 5 years. So we're going to keep going, guys. All right. So let's us hop into it. So I took some notes here, have some very brief notes here. So I'm actually going to start by defining what each of these are. So biblical leadership and headship, biblical headship. So and this is where I'm defining this is I'm defining it in terms of relationships. You could also define this in terms of career and like workplace. There's a lot of other ways, like how headship and leadership, you could put this in career roles. I'm just going to put this actually in relationships because we've been on this train where we've been talking a lot about marriage, a lot of different things. And that's kind of the season we've been in. We're going to get back to our finance episodes and, fitness and health episodes soon too. But this is where we've been. So, and when this came up a few weeks ago, this is in the context of what it was in. So in the relationship context, when it comes to this leadership, the definition that I found over and over as I had looked at multiple sources, leadership is the ability to guide, direct, people, which makes sense. When you hear leadership, to guide and direct. Headship is a specific, and this is usually in terms of religious context, to be honest, define, because you don't hear the word headship as much. You hear leadership all the time. You got to lead. As a man, you hear that word. So what is lead? Like, when I grab someone's hand and show them the way, people, leadership is a broad term, but headship is usually defined in the religious term. And it's defined as the role of primary responsibility for a family's well-being. And this is in the relationship context. So in relationship context, it's a role for a family's well-being, encompassing Christ-like service, protection, and provision. So while leadership involves making decisions and setting the direction, headship goes a bit further, which is why I say leadership is a branch of headship. Headship goes further. It's embodying an organic, unified relationship with a focus on sacrifice and selfless service. So, in terms of a husband, a lot of times, he's responsible, right? Like as a protector and a provider for the protection, the primary responsibility for his family. That's technically the father's responsibility, and then the mother's responsibility. A lot of times, the woman's responsibility is a lot of times the nurturing aspect. However, I think that certain things can be interchangeable, and you're going to kind of see that with leadership. I've been talking to people recently about this because I think that the roles of men and women, they get like while there are, from history, what certain roles are, I think the dynamic of the way life is built, and just the world is built today, things can differ. So I was talking to, I've talked to multiple people on this subject, recently. Even have had to check some friends in terms of the man's role, in these situations. And I know who they are, but I keep it real. I'm going to keep, as friends, we keep each other accountable. We keep each other on par. And we keep each other, in check. So a lot of times I'll just go from a man's perspective. A lot of men I hear out here in these different spheres, red pill sphere, all these different areas, you hear that a man's role is to protect and provide, go to work, and it's the woman's role to nurture. But they think cook, clean, do their laundry, take care of the house. They got kids, take care of the kids. Now, while like in the traditional sense, those roles are for sure, that's how those roles are defined a lot of times for men and women. The dynamic has changed. So I say that applies if you're in a fully traditional relationship. And what I mean by that is if you're the man and you're going to work and you're pulling in a comfortable income where you and your family can survive, say you have kids or it's just you and your wife, and you can survive on that income, and your wife isn't working, or the mother of your children and your wife is not working. Okay, yeah. So I understand that. You want your wife to take care of the kids while you're at work, take care of the house, make sure there's a hot cooked meal on the table, do the wash, whatever. All the household duties. Sure. That doesn't excuse you from coming home from work and not taking care or spending time with your children or your wife, because that's, I've seen that a lot too. A lot of men go to work, come home, disappear into the man cave for hours, and that's not. I'll be honest, like that doesn't excuse you from spending time with your wife and kids. Number one, why be married or have kids if you don't even want to spend time with them? But I will say, I'm just going from a man's perspective here, because I could also say the same thing I've seen on women, too, have made a lot of judgments against men. In other words, I'll get to that in a second. What I would say is, if your woman is going to work as well, and you think you come home and you're absolved of any household duties, I think that is completely wrong. It's completely false. A relationship, a marriage is a team effort. So it's two people coming together as a team. You're a team together. It's not even 50-50. It's 100-100. You guys have to give your 100. And there's going to be highs and lows. There's going to be times where you have more energy and your partner doesn't. And then there's going to be other times where your partner's got more energy and they got to pick you up. And then, even as a man, sometimes it's just how it is. Although you want to always lead your family, there's going to be times in life where you're feeling a little bit depleted, and that's where a good woman will pick you up. But you also have to pour into her too. She needs to feel safe. She needs to feel secure. She needs to feel heard and seen. And I think a lot of men don't understand that a lot of times. So what I would say is, if you're both working and then you come home and you just expect your wife to, or your girlfriend, whatever, to, I don't know, everybody's dynamic's different. If you expect them to take care of all the household stuff, and meanwhile you go and you hop on the video game real quick, or go to the gym, go to the gym's great, and you should do things like that, or self-care things. Sure, take an hour, do something, but at the same time, don't think that that's going to consume your whole evening, or you don't have to do it. Like, no, that is how women get burnt out. That is how, and this can vice versa, men too. But I'm saying this is how women get burnt out, and how these types of things happen. And a lot of times I hear this from a lot of women, that's why a lot of women will get divorced and then they don't want to remarry, is because, they were in situations where they felt like I could just do all this while I was single. And it's sad. I think marriage, a lot of times is declining in today's day and age, but I'm just saying, this is just, and I'm not picking on just the men here. I'll get to the women's part in a second, but what I mean by this is you have to give 100. Like, you have to help her when she's exhausted. Guess what? You come home and she cooked yesterday. You come home and you cook today, and you take care of the other chores. You guys come together for the sake of the household, for the sake of the children. And guess what? Like, hey, baby, hey, like, say you got a newborn baby, and like she woke up in the middle of the night and you're both working. She got up in the middle of the night and she took care of the baby the night before. Get your hands up and take care and help. Your baby wakes up in the middle of the night. Go ahead and help out. Like, it's a partnership. So and here's the thing, I am talking from a role of a man who does not have any biological children. So, I'm not, but I'm just saying, I understand that when I have kids, like it's 100. It's not 50-50, any of this type of stuff. It's two people coming together and it's a team effort. It's just how it is, guys. So, and from the women's perspective, I'm also seeing a lot of women who expect a man to provide them a certain lifestyle with none of the benefits of loyalty or anything. I've seen this too for a lot of women who like will want to not work, have a man provide everything for them. Meanwhile, they don't want to do anything. And so I've seen it both ways. I've seen, women who would rather just, they still want to go out with, like all the time with their friends, do all this stuff. It's like, meanwhile, the man is working 80 hours a week and slaving away. And so I've seen it both ways. And honestly, men don't want that. Real men don't want that. I mean, there's the word simp out there, right? And a lot of guys and I always say there's a difference between nice guys and good men. A nice guy might put up with that, but I'm gonna be honest, a good man who's like on his purpose and on his focus, like on his mission in life and is looking to build something and has confidence and self-respect for himself, he's not going to tolerate that. And I'm just saying that from a man's perspective. We have to get in the role of this is a team effort. I think there's so many couples that just can't stand each other. And it's like, I understand you go through seasons where like, sure, you guys might not be fully happy and you work through those things, but you're miserable all the time. Like, what is the point of being together? You might as well just be single. Or if you can't show up fully in a relationship or a marriage, then you're not ready. You're not ready. So you have to understand this is 100 when you come into it. But what I say is going back to the headship and the leadership thing on the roles in a biblical setting, still a man is still expected to protect and provide for his family. Protection goes beyond physically. It requires emotional intelligence too. You have to be able to pour into your partner. So yes, you should be able to physically defend your partner or be willing to. I always say, even if an MMA fighter came up or, and I didn't have a weapon and tried to attack my family, I don't care if I'm going to get knocked out. Like, I'm still going down fighting. Like, you have to be willing. You have to have that mindset as a man that I'm willing to die for my family. And that is serious. I think a lot of men do have that mindset, but not all. Not all probably do, but you have to be willing to. You give up the eyes for us when you get into these scenarios. So I'm just saying protection, provide, and that's why I mean, providing can also go further than financially. Providing means providing your family with pouring into them emotionally, there's a plenty of different ways, educating, providing knowledge, providing guidance. There's more that goes into, making sure you guys are staying on track of your goals, providing, wisdom, pouring into it, providing, spiritual leadership too, as a Christian, leading prayer as a Christian man, different things for your family. There's a lot of things that go into it, but I'd say, headship and leadership. So headship, like I said, is very religiously defined, but in terms of relationship, it's responsibility for the family's well-being. Leader. And so let's get into the traits of both of these, right? I gave you guys this broad definitions. So what I found here is for leadership, because it's a broad term. Let's see, adjust my chair here, guys. Feel like I'm turning my neck a little bit. So leadership, there's three things I found. And, well, not three things. I just wanted to break this out into three things. I wanted to break it out into focus, inclusion, and action. Inclusion was iffy how I was going to add that in, but I'll walk you guys through it. So for focus, what is leadership? The focus of leadership is guiding a relationship in terms of relationship context, guiding the relationship towards goals, making decisions, and establishing a path moving forward. I've been in relationships in the past where, to be honest, you feel like they're not maybe moving towards something. And I'll be honest, maybe some of that was my role too, to be honest, like as a man, where are we going goals wise? Maybe you have goals and you talk about it. Like say you're in a relationship, you talk about marriage, you talk about kids and everything like that. But how do we tangibly have a path forward towards that? Like, what are we working towards? And then maybe we have goals in our career, or goals, just general goals, like checking in with your partner. Hey, how are we doing towards these goals? And, how am I doing towards my goals? And we communicate and we talk about these things. We get so caught up in the everyday life, and it's normal. It happens to a lot of couples. But that's the thing with leadership in a relationship or a marriage. The focus is guiding the relationship towards goals, making those decisions, and then establishing that path forward. That's the focus. So if I go to the action, so what does this mean in terms of action? Leadership is an action. It's a function or a skill that requires making rules, enforcing them, and providing direction and managing. In this, it says how it has said was the team, but in terms of this, managing the family to function well. And in terms of inclusion, who's included in leadership? Both partners in a relationship, when it comes to leadership, can actually be leaders. A man can lead, but also women can lead too in different areas. And that's the thing with trusting your partner, allowing your woman as a man to lead different things. Say, you're in a relationship and, say your partner's great, and say as a man, I'm with my partner and she's great at like planning out and like when we travel places, she's great at that. Like she knows how to find good deals on flights. She knows how to do this. Hey, that's her strength. That's her strong suit. Let her handle that. Maybe in terms of the finances, maybe she's not great at budgeting in certain things. Hey, don't worry, babe. I'll take care of that. I'll take care of the budgeting, the finances, making sure we're on track financially, taken care of. That is leadership. You're able to delegate to different things. I think sometimes we get in such an ego where we don't want to do that. This is where the difference comes in. And it's being able to understanding your strengths as partners. And maybe if you both have a strength in the same area, you figure that out. Or maybe if you're both weak in the same area, guess what? You guys are going to have to figure that out, right? Like, hey, how can one of us get better at that? Because it's a partnership. But that's what it comes in terms of inclusion. So now I'm going to work towards headship and what I have in my notes. So what is the focus of headship? It's a specific calling, particularly in the Christian tradition, for a husband to take the primary responsibility for the family, right? That's what I had said. What does it mean in terms of action? What is it as an action? Headship is an action. It is expressed through Christ-like servant leadership, protection, and provision for your family. I actually added some other things to this. Instead of inclusion, because it is included, what I did was I added an analogy and then what is it like in terms of relationship. So an analogy I'll give you for what headship. Christ's headship of the church, right? Jesus Christ's headship of the church serves as a model emphasizing self-sacrifice, service, and love rather than control or hierarchy. And that is a key distinction, right? Because you think when you sometimes hear headship or leadership, it's pointing the finger. I'm the boss. I'm doing this. You're going to listen to me. You got to do this. No. So if we look at the analogy of Jesus Christ, Christ's headship of the church, it serves as a model, and you emphasize through your actions of self-sacrifice, it's service and love. You carry that out. So as a man, you carry that out and you pour into it. And I think a lot of times too, this isn't all the time, so take this with what you will, but I will say this. A lot of times you'll hear, and this is from like podcasts or books I've listened to in terms of personal growth, especially when it comes to relationships, a lot of men will complain that their woman doesn't do this, that, and the third. And while you're definitely not responsible for your partner's mental health all the time or well-being, they have to be able to do those things too and pour into themselves. I will say as a man, a lot of times we lead. And so when you ask, well, how are you pouring? When men have a lot of times been asked, a lot of these books I've listened to or podcasts I've heard, they're not pouring into their wife or their partner, And then you wonder why they're drained and they're not pouring back into them, or they're not doing certain things. It's like, I think as a man, it is that is where it comes in with love, respect, decency, consistency, how we pour into our women, and then allow them to relax and feel safe so that they can show up best for us. Now, like I said, that doesn't apply all the time. Maybe you are fully pouring in the best you can, and that person is just stubborn and they're not making the changes that they need to inside of their own life. And then in that case, you can only control what you can control. You can control your action and how you show up, but you can't control someone else's action. So, right, we control what we can control, and we leave the rest to that person and to God. You can't make changes for people. Everybody has free will. But basically, I'm going to, Jesus doesn't lead. His headship of the church isn't through control. The word control, right? It's not through control. It's as a model. So as men, we are models for our family, how we act, how we carry ourselves, the direction that we move. That is a model for our family. And, we emphasize as pouring into our partners and our kids, self-sacrifice, service, and love. Relationship. What does that mean in terms of headship? So headship implies an organic relationship of harmony, unity, rather than a position of authority. That kind of goes right to the analogy of God. So that we take how Christ had modeled inside the church, and we put it towards the relationship analogy, right? So now we put this analogy into the relationship. Harmony and unity is how we carry out our relationship and lead it, versus just a position of authority. See something here. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. My Facebook thing. Hold out. Whoa. There we go. Let me just pull up Facebook real quick, guys. Give me 1 sec. Joe, I appreciate you, man. You said true. I love that. My guy, Joe Roman over here. Joe, what's up, brother? Thanks for tuning in. I was just checking out the Facebook comments and YouTube. I can see as they come through here. Yeah, man. It's just these are things that I think a lot of people don't really think about. I thought this was an interesting topic when I was hearing about it the other day. Though I thought it was really, really interesting. So I wanted to go through it. So let's go down to now. I did put some things in here in terms of key distinctions too. So this is where I wanted to tell you guys, kind of explain to you guys the differences. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the show. If you do, hit the like button. Really, really helps me out. Continue to smash it, guys. But I appreciate everybody who's tuning in right now. I know it is 9:00 on a Thursday night, and it's not after hours. So appreciate you guys locking in. So key distinctions, what are the differences in terms of scope? Headship this is what I was saying at the beginning. Headship is broader than leadership. So leadership is one of the expressions of headship. It's like a branch, if you will, of headship, alongside protection and provision. So in terms of scope, leadership is like a part of headship. In terms of the source, headship is often viewed as divinely ordained calling, particularly for husbands, in certain theological views, whereas leadership can be a natural skill and role for any individual. Like I said, you could allow your woman to lead in certain areas too, where her strong suits are, and understand what yours are. That's where communication comes in. That's where understanding, and we're going to talk about this next week, love languages. We're going to talk about attachment styles. We're going to talk about different things, but understanding and communicating what your strengths and weaknesses are, so you guys can fully understand each other. And when you guys are like best friends, you'll understand these things about one another. You guys talk, and you're each other's best friends. So application, in terms of application between these two, the differences between leadership and headship. While leadership is about making decisions, headship emphasizes manner and spirit in which those decisions are made. So with sacrificial love and selfless sacrifice, other than pointing the finger and saying, I'm the boss, I'm telling you what to do this or else. No, it's controlling, that's authoritative, and that's not how we lead as men. That no matter what compared to whatever you've heard to maybe you've heard otherwise, but that is not how men really lead. I think that's where there's a lot of confusion in that area. But that's the difference. Leadership is about making decisions. Headship is about the manner and spirit in which we do. And the final part that I have here in terms of my notes is what is the difference is cultural nuance. So what I mean by that is, I'll break it down. The concept of headship often carries a lot of theological weight. There's specific theological weight that's carried with headship. And its understanding can vary significantly across the board. Sometimes being as misinterpreted as dominance and control. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. That's not really in terms of biblical, that's not really what we're trying to convey. We're trying to convey as a model, just as Christ is a model for his church through self-sacrifice and love. That's how a husband, in terms of headship, needs to model for his family love and stuff. Because, I think that's where a lot of men, that's where views get skewed, especially if we were brought up in households where you had a very dominant, father who was very domineering and very controlling, or, this goes the other way too. Sometimes you see this with sometimes they're like mothers or wives, like very domineering towards their husband, and their husband's just weak and doesn't say anything. You see it in both ends, but it doesn't make for any type of healthy relationship. A long-term, healthy, established and relationship requires a lot of self-sacrifice. That's why I always say you trade in the eyes for us when you get married. Actually, when you enter into a relationship, it's the same way. Because the goal of a relationship is marriage, at least in my opinion. And everybody's different. Some people don't believe in marriage or don't want to get married. Hey, that's okay. Everybody's different, and I'm not here to judge anybody. I know quite a few people that are together, and in terms of almost if common law existed, it'd almost be like they would be married under common law. But they've been together a long time. They don't see marriage in their future, and they don't want kids either. And look, and hey, that's to each their own. Everybody's views are different, and I respect, everybody's opinion. So you can have any type of or whatever your views are, your beliefs, and hey, everybody's entitled to that. So that's great. Whatever works for you. But I'm just saying, in terms of my view for it is, I believe that, I don't, relationship for me, the goal is marriage. I want to find my wife. I want to be married, and then children. That's the goal, right? It's the goal. So we, in terms of the Christian standpoint too, that is the goal too. The goal is to get married and have children. So what I mean by so that's what I'm saying too. Like a long, loving, healthy relationship, you train the eyes for us, because you have to take your partner into account too. It's no longer a me, it's a we effort. When you make decisions, you have to think in terms of the two of you, not just yourself. Just like when you have kids, is this going to be, even if you're a single father or mother, you got to think, how is this going to affect my child, the decision I'm making? So, but a lot of people don't do that. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't do that. Everybody makes mistakes though. We learn from them and we grow from them. Hopefully, they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again with the same result. So hopefully that's the goal. We all make mistakes. We're completely imperfect because we're all sinful by nature. So we make mistakes, but we learn and we grow from them. And that is hopefully what you're doing if you are making mistakes. Not if you are, when you make mistakes. Let me rephrase that, because we all do. It's not a if, it's a when. But you have to think in terms of your partner. You got to think in terms of your kids. When you're not single, you're not on your own. You got to think, how's this going to affect my family? But guys, let me know what you think about that. We're 40 minutes in. I did say I'll probably try to keep this to 45 minutes. I know the intro was relatively long, so it wasn't 45 minutes of content. But I will keep this next 5 minutes to close out and let you guys just comment in. If you guys have comments, Facebook keeps clicking off here. Let me pull it back up. All right, we got some good views going on Facebook on both pages. Got some good YouTube videos. Anna commented in here. She said, great content, such an important topic for men and women who are called to marriage. Absolutely. Anna, absolutely. I know as a Christian you can relate. Yeah, it's very important. It's very important to understand. I that's what I thought when I heard it. I'll be honest, I was not initially planning to put this one out there tonight as a topic. It was supposed to be after hours, and I was going to push this down the line because I have other episodes coming after this. But yeah, no, it's very important, and I think a lot of people need to understand it. So I'm glad I was able to share and take these notes for this tonight. But let me, while we're doing this, if you guys have any questions you guys want to add in, feel free. I'm going to update you guys with our calendar. If you didn't see it on Facebook or Instagram, what our calendar is looking like here. So tonight was episode 227. Next week, as I said, 228. This will be episode 228. It's going to be our after hours part 8. I believe it's 8 or 9. And it's going to be at 9 o'clock. So we're going to have 2 weeks of 9 p.m. episodes. Basically, what we're going to be talking about is attachment styles. We're going to be talking about love languages. And we're going to be talking about modern dating. And if we have time, we're probably not going to have time for this one, but this is a good one too. Repairing broken trust. That's a big one, but I think that's going to have to be a whole episode in itself. I realistically don't think we're going to have time to add that on. Even in 2 hours with a whole guest panel, you're not going to have enough time. So that's probably going to have to be a separate one in the future. Because repairing broken trust is complex. It depends on what happened, which is tough. After that, episode 229 will be in around September 25th. If you guys follow baseball, we're in the Philadelphia area, so Philadelphia Phillies fans out there, Red October is going to be on the way. Phillies are going to be making the playoffs. You know, they're in a position to potentially get a bye. 3 games behind the Brewers for number 1 ranked in the whole MLB. Phillies are killing it right now. A little shaky on the bullpen, but, you know, we'll get there. And, you know, obviously Wheeler missing for the rest of the playoffs is going to be tough, you know, as our ace. But we're going to be talking about the Philadelphia Phillies on the 25th, so 2 weeks. We're going to talk about gearing up for the playoff run. Where are the Phillies sitting at in 2 weeks? Because they'll be pretty much almost end of the season by that point. And then what are our expectations heading into the playoffs? Where do we think their scope is? Like, where do we think they can reach? And, yeah, we'll just have fun with it. So that'll be a sports one. And then episode 230 will be my guy, Ray Slemmer, who I was connected with recently. He was supposed to come on earlier in the summer, but unfortunately we both got, you know, it was difficult in terms of our schedules lining up. But Ray is going to come on in 230. That's at least this is what we're aiming for so far, October 2nd. And we're going to talk mindset. We're going to talk family. We're going to talk business principles. Ray's a father himself and a husband. Recently, you know, he grew up in Philadelphia. Knew him actually from Green Holly Campground. Shout out Green Holly Campground in Cape May Courthouse, New Jersey, where a couple of my close brothers to this day, Andrew Knight being one of them too, was, you know, my guy out there. You know, I was in his wedding a couple of years ago. We all met, and, you know, we built a bond over the last 20 plus years. But Ray lives down near Orlando now with his wife and his kids. Great father, great husband, but he's a Christian as well. So we're going to talk Christianity. We're going to talk family, talk business principles, mindset. This is going to be a good personal growth episode, you know. But this will be Ray's first time coming on the podcast. He's never been on before, so I'm excited for that one. But yeah, that's the schedule what we have over the next 3 weeks. And then I update the calendar like 4 weeks, 4 weeks at a time. So I'll update you guys as we go on. And also, guys, I know we talked about the birds last week. Shout out to Mario. Shout out to Rich. Shout out to I don't know if Rob came on for that one too. I forget. I'll have to look back. But yeah, shout out to everyone that came on last week. Yeah, no, that was the birds got a W last Thursday. Great way to open the season. Go birds. Let's go. You know, we always rock the birds. Speaking of the birds, we got the birds here repping. Yeah, that was, you know, it was weird. Jalen Carter went out, but at the end of the day, a win's a win. I would have liked to see them beat Dallas's ass a little more than they did, obviously. I was hoping it was just going to be a blowout to open up the season, but losing Jalen Carter's pretty big. I am happy with the signing that they got on Zadarius Smith. Zadarius Smith's a beast. Sure, he's towards the end of his career, but he's still a monster nonetheless. I think he had 9.5 sacks last year. Killer. Love that move. Love that pickup. And I'm excited to see what the Eagles are going to do. Big game this Sunday, 4:15-ish, 4:25, I think 4:25. This is going to be a big one. Rematch of the Super Bowl. We're playing in Kansas City. They just lost in Brazil last week. Xavier Worthy out for the time being. This is going to be exciting. They're going to try to get revenge on us. We're going in their building. I can't wait to see it. This is going to be exciting. This is going to be a big one. So great games to start the season. We open against Dallas, then we play Kansas City. We'll talk more Eagles as the season goes on, but all right, guys. Let me see if any other comments come in here before I close out. Mario, thanks for liking, brother. Appreciate you. Joe, I said not only did you comment, I saw you like too. Appreciate you, bro. Thanks for taking the time to like and comment. Yeah, I think we'll close out, guys. I mean, if you guys want any more information on this, I could send you my notes, whatever I have. Let me know if it's something you're interested in, or you guys could look it up yourself, Headship versus Biblical Leadership. But yeah, I'd love to have a discussion. If anybody wants to chat about it, reach out to me. Even if you're not watching the live stream and you're watching like the post, the post stream, like after this episode is no longer live, still comment. I will respond to your comments, whether we're live now or we are. And if we're not live, I can also respond to your comments after. So I always will. So comment down below, guys, if you are watching. Still hit the like button. Really, really helps me out. And just a heads up, there's going to be some updates coming within the next couple months to our website. So I'm going to be working with someone. She's a web developer. I'm looking to. I have to see the price points and everything like that. That can help me, because it's paid. Nobody's doing it for free. In terms of our website to get more traction. So there may be some changes in the next couple of months coming to the website too. So just keep your eye out for that. I'll put updates as they come. All right, guys, I'm going to close this one out tonight and let everybody get on with their night. Appreciate everyone who tuned in. Mario, thanks for the like. Joe, thanks for the comment and like. Anna, thank you for your comment as well. And I appreciate that. Thank you to everybody who watched. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. And then next week, the episode should be again at 9 p.m. And after that, we'll probably be back to our 7:30 p.m. slots after hours next week. But guys, we'll see you next Thursday, September 18th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for After Hours Part 8. Like I said, I think it's 8 or 9. So that being said, have a good night, guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.